Welcome back to Coffee with Krav 2022. Well, first of all, Happy New Year to everyone. Different year, similar themes. We're going to get into that this year with Coffee with Krav. As a reminder, Coffee with Krav was started back early 2020 when COVID first hit. I wanted to bring something different to you as TV was filled with President Trump and New York Governor Cuomo talking every day about the coronavirus. I was looking to bring interesting people that can educate and entertain and make us think. And I can't think of a better person than our guest today, who has done so many different things in so many different industries. And I know that you're going to love this interview. So let me read his bio. It's extensive. So just hang on there. Just hang on. Mr. Friedman is a champion for viewing awareness and acquisition of fine arts by creating art fairs around the country. In the Hamptons, he created the region's first fine art fair, Art Hamptons, nearly a decade ago, and attendance has grown from 3,000 to 14,000 under his ownership. Over 100,000 art lovers attended his fine art fairs annually in places all over the country, including Palm Springs, San Francisco, and Silicon Valley. Ever the entrepreneur, Mr. Friedman pioneered advanced software technology in the 90s through a worldwide network of publications, conferences, and expos in 6 different countries. During that period, his SIGS publication became one of the fastest growing privately held businesses in the United States. His original team of advisors and writers included Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. After the sale of his company to private equity, he went on to pioneer and champion the growth digital media, digital video, special effects, animation, with a series of expos which culminated with owning the venerable Showbiz Expo in LA, the largest event for filmmakers in the world, which he acquired from Variety magazine. Earlier in his life, as a colorful entrepreneur, his range ventured, including creating, directing, and hosting a series of disco dance contests at Regine in the late 70s, which was sold to and became the format of Merv Griffin's popular Dance Fever syndicated TV series in the 80s. He then moved into sports promotion, focusing on volleyball, where his popular NCAA matches led it to owning USA men's and women's national teams. His tour set national attendance records for the sport, including playing at Madison Square Garden. Rick lends artwork from his 250-piece art collection to museum exhibits, ranging from Guild Hall, the National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum, to National Museum of Picasso in Paris. I bring you Rick Friedman, the collector, writer, producer, publisher, and philanthropist. Welcome, Rick. Welcome to Coffee with Krav.
Well, thanks, Mark. First of all, thanks for inviting me to your podcast, and thank you for doing this. But putting on a podcast and bringing in special guests, and hopefully there's a lessons learned that comes out of this for your listeners and watchers. So I'll try to focus on that. But after reading all that, I just want to say I just flew in from the West Coast, and boy, my arm's tired now.
You know what? One of your things was not comedy, so maybe we'll, just kidding. So Rick, let me start. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up on Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, across from the Brooklyn Museum, the Grand Army Plaza, if you know where that is. I went to Erasmus Hall High School.
Oh, nice.
Which was one of the oldest schools in the country, and founded by the Dutch. And so I played ball there and was a good student, and it's started me out in my life.
Nice. I'm a fellow Brooklynite myself, born in Brooklyn Hospital.
What high school? What high school again?
I didn't go to high school. I moved when I was in 5th grade. We moved to Long Island. My parents moved out of Brooklyn, but enjoyed my time in Brooklyn that short period of time. Went to PS 209, if you know where that is. What was your favorite baseball team? What is your favorite baseball team?
Well, I always liked the Mets when I was a young kid, and I was really, liking the Mets and watching the Mets, and when they first started, 64, 65, 66, 67. And then, I was a young player, and then I started to actually got to watch the Yankees. I used to go to all the games, and I used to go to Yankee Stadium. I used to almost basically sleep out in front of the ballpark to where the ball players came in and out. And then one day, one of the ball players stopped and said to me, "Hey, kid, what's your problem? Don't you have a home?" And I said, "No." I said, I basically just want to come out. I want to be a baseball player like you, and I want to come out and see you guys and all that." And the guys felt sorry for me. There's a fellow named Jimmy Lytle that played right field for the 1969-70 Yankees. And he said, "Well, let me see what I could do for you." He said, "How would you like to help out the Yankees?" And I said, "Well, help out the Yankees? What do you mean?" And he goes, "Well, we come out and we take batting practice and the balls get hit out to the outfield. We need someone to throw them back. Why don't you come out to the field and throw the balls back?" And he's, "Oh my gosh." So he took me in the clubhouse, he took me in, he put me on the field. And he said, "Okay, well, with the guys." So I went out to right field, I went out to center field, and the guys were taking batting practice. And I was like 15 years old, 16 years old. I've never seen balls hit so hard in my life. And Yankee Stadium is like a vacuum. Like the ball just, there's no like air resistance. It just takes off. And the guys were hitting the ball over my head before I could even take a step. So it was amazing. But I threw the balls back, and and they would call me to do this regularly. And so I got to know all the Yankee players at the time. So that's how I got into it.
That's a great, that's a great start. And so you wound up playing baseball, right? And you were in the minor leagues. You played with Willie Randolph,
Yeah.
right?
I actually I played high school, I played college, I played semi-pro. I was on the best semi-pro team in the United States, and in Brooklyn at the Parade Grounds. Yeah. I played, and we had a lot of guys. So, these were great teams. My college team, about five guys went pro. My semi-pro team, almost the whole team went pro. I never signed a pro contract, but my double play combination for a short time was Willie Randolph, that actually wound up signing with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and then was traded to the Yankees and played with the Yankees for many years. Actually voted like the greatest Yankee second baseman of all time, which was really something. But he played short. I played second actually at the time. And I played with Lee Mazzilli and a lot of other guys. So I did play, and then after that, as they say, you can't steal first. So basically, I decided that it's funny because the Kansas City Royals are very interested in me, and I went down to Sarasota, Florida, to Kauffman Stadium, and I was tried out with the Royals many times, and then I saw they had a shortstop named Little Freddie Potak. He's a 5 foot, 440 pounds. And this guy had a gun. He could catch, he could throw, hit the ball 500 feet. And I said, "Oh my God, I'm a schmuck. I just got to stop. I can't." This little guy is like outplaying me. It's time to retire. I quit.
Well, interesting. I'm going to get into, I know you have some art back there. We're going to get into your art collection and everything a little bit later. But while we're on baseball, I do want to talk a little bit about your baseball collection. And I'm going to show the audience a couple of things. Here, this comes from your collection. That is Babe Ruth. And then this one is the 1935 Yankees. That's Lou Gehrig there. So talk about your baseball collection, please.
Yeah. Well, thanks. But first of all, Mike, I got to say, you came up the house and you saw it, and you created some impersonations of the ball players that of the uniforms and the. I was impressed at how you look like that ball player when you impersonated them. You look just like Andy Pettitte when you look.
Well, for the audience, I'm a big baseball fan, a huge baseball fan, if you don't know already. And Rick had told me about his collection. I was excited to see that. And then he took me downstairs to his basement, and Rick had a tremendous collection of bats, including Babe Ruth's bat. He had Babe Ruth's bat that actually Babe Ruth used in a game, which I was pretty impressed. It was a very long bat, which you mentioned he needed a long bat because it was late in his career and he couldn't hit the curveball, so he needed a longer bat. But he started giving me different bats, and I was doing the what these guys look like.
All the hitters is amazing.
Yeah,
you were right on. Yeah, you actually look for a minute. You actually look like the guy.
But going back to the collection,
Yeah.
you had this amazing bat collection, which
Yeah.
is sold. Talk about that bat collection that you
Well,
had.
I started to really collecting everything, and I wanted to, autograph balls and some jerseys and caps and gloves and stuff. But bats sort of fascinated me, and I wanted to collect Hall of Fame bats. And my goal was to collect the personal game used bat of everybody on the 500 home run list and everybody in the 3,000 hit list. And I actually accomplished that. It took me about 4 years, 5 years of collecting, but I actually had that at one time, which is, I don't know how many people around the world had that. I mean, certainly the Hall of Fame had it. And so, and then I had hundreds of bats downstairs. And my wife said to me, "What are you, bats in the belfry here? Come on, it's crazy. I mean, you have somebody." So I started to sell them off back in auction, and decided to focus on baseball gloves. So I now have the gloves of all the top defensive players of every position on the ball field.
The Golden Glove.
Most golden gloves of every position. So that's nice, and you saw a few of them. So that's
it's a great collection that shouldn't be sitting in your basement. That's what I have. I actually, I should say that you did have some pieces or a piece of art collection that went to the Baseball Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah, right.
Can you talk about that?
I actually have a piece right now. I have there was a cartoonist during the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that did New York Magazine named Saul Steinberg. And Saul Steinberg did, in 1955, was hired by Major League Baseball to, actually Life Magazine, to go around and do his cartoon work in the world of baseball. And they published a section in August 1955, Life Magazine, and there were 6 or 7 pieces, and I did some research on that, and every one was in a major museum collection around the world, and one came up in auction. I bought it, and then I reached out to the National Baseball Hall of Fame Museum in Cooperstown, and I asked them if they would want a loan in the Art of Baseball wing, and they said yes, and they did. So they took it. So it's hanging right now in the Baseball Hall of Fame. But I have had Alexander Colas and Elaine de Koonings that have actually hung in the Hall of Fame. So it's a great place.
I'm definitely going to get back to your art a little bit later, but I'm going to bring us back. I'm going to go back to the 70s. The 70s, when disco dancing was the craze. You used to frequent Studio 54 and Regine's. You created the original format and was the MC and producer of Dance Fever. I remember Dance Fever, watching Danny Terrio and all that. How did that come about? How did that all come about?
It's a good question. I was going to nightclubs, and I started out in the nightclubs in Queens and Brooklyn. There's a place called Eggbert's, and I was running these little local disco dance contests back in the era when the disco music was playing, and then one day I got a call from Regine Chacron, that owns Regine's nightclub in New York, as well as many around the world. And she said, "I hear that you're doing some great things with dance contests. I'd like you to come and meet me and talk about bringing your show to Regine's." So I said, okay. So I went to this, met her, and I didn't know that much about her when I met her, but then, she's French women, she's wild, red hair, and she's crazy and screaming at everybody in the room. And she said, "Let's do this together. Let's produce these shows." And and then she said, "I have access to everybody famous in the world, so we can really make this grow significantly." So she did. She got celebrity judges, and I brought my dancers in there and MC, and we created this dance fever. And one of my celebrity judges was Andy Warhol, actually. So that's where I met Andy originally. So it was just a wild scene. And then we had the opportunity to sell it to Merv Griffin Productions. And they wanted to create a show, a syndicated TV show called Dance Fever. Danny Terrio was hanging out with me. He was a friend of mine, a great dancer. He became the MC of the show. And I was still a kid. I was like maybe 24 years old. And I didn't really sell it. But I didn't go out to the West Coast. I didn't do it. I stayed. But anyhow, and the show ran for 6 years on the syndication market. Dance Fever.
Yeah, excellent. And Saturday Night Fever, right? Danny Terrio, didn't he teach John Travolta?
Yeah, he did. He taught John Travolta some of those moves. That's exactly right. He did. I'm impressed you know that. Nobody knows that.
And so you mentioned Andy Warhol as a judge. How was he? What type of guy?
Yeah,
guy was he?
He was a little intimidating because you meet a lot of people and everybody's sort of interesting and good looking and all that, and then you meet him. He had like this wig on and pancake makeup, and he looked like he didn't blink. He never blinked. He just looked. I mean, I thought he was like dead. I thought, my God, yeah, he was frightening, and he actually like got me nervous, But he was very, very smart and very shrewd, and he watched very carefully everything, and he picked up, and he was actually a nice guy. He became sort of a mentor to, sort of teach me how to think and how we perceive the world, which is very unique. And I mean, I don't know. They say he's the greatest painter of the 20th century. I don't know, but could be. It's amazing. Do
you own any Andy Warhols?
Yes. Yeah. Several Andy Warhols. Yeah. I mean, he wanted to. It's funny because at the time he'd go around and he'd want to paint people and do their screen print face. It's what he did, and it was $25,000. They kept asking me that he wanted to do he wanted to do me, and I said, yeah, $25,000 was. I mean, that was, as a kid back then, that was a lot of money for me. I just couldn't afford it. And I asked my parents about it. You can get a car for that. What are you, crazy? So I never got it done. It's one of my regrets, I guess. But I hung out with him a lot and learned a lot from him.
That's fantastic. Well, from Dance Fever, you moved into sports next. You owned the USA men's and women's national volleyball team. Obviously, a big change from disco dancing. How'd you make that transition?
So I tell you that story quickly. It's such a funny story. So I was always fascinated with sports, but it's very hard to get into sports because of ING. Mark McCormick sort of controlled a lot of the sports. I mean, he controlled golf and he controlled tennis, and baseball was baseball, and NFL, and there was really no opportunity to get into sports. There's only one sport that seemed to be sort of unowned or sort of open for promotion was the sport of volleyball. And so I was sort of fascinated by it. But so one day, one weekend, I went down to Puerto Rico. I stayed at the El San Juan Towers. I was there by myself. I don't know why I was there. And basically, I got on the elevator, and two guys get on the elevator, and they're like 6'8". And I say, "Well, what basketball team do you play with?" And they go, "No, we play volleyball." I said, "You play volleyball? What do you mean?" He said, "Oh yeah, we're the UCLA Bruins." And so I said, "Oh really?" I said, "We're playing a tournament down here, and our coach is the coach of the USA team." I said, "Really? Can you introduce me?" He said, "Sure." So they introduced me to him in the lobby, and his name was Al Skates, and we talked for an hour and a half about things, and I told him I wanted to get into volleyball, promotion. He was a smart guy, an entrepreneur, very clever guy, and he said, "Well, yeah, let's be partners, and we'll work together. We'll put together some major events, and you'll be my guy in New York, and I'm in LA, and we'll do it." So we started this business, and I started running NCAA sort of all-star games in at an arena in Westchester County Center. And we got 3,000 people. I had UCLA Bruins play against Penn State, and these were the top players in the country. And then one day I got a call from the USA men's team, USA Olympic men's team, said, we heard that you're doing great. Al Skates says you're a great guy. We want you to promote the USA men's volleyball, because it was before the '84 Olympics, and they wanted to get more promotion on the East Coast in the New York media. So I said, well, let me go to Madison Square Garden and see if we can get a game going in Madison Square Garden. I said, fine. So I went in, I met the president of the Garden, and we talked, and said, can we do it? He said, yeah, I'll be your partner. I'd love to have the USA team play here. And so, yeah, we had a game against the People's Republic of China. I was able to get Ever Ready batteries to be a sponsor. In fact, they said to me, well, we can only do it if you get a big sponsor. If you do get a sponsor, we'll do it. I'll give you like 1 week to do it. And I got the sponsor, and it came in. So we put, and it set the USA record of attendance. I think I had, I don't know, about 8,500 people in Madison Square Garden for a game, which doesn't fill up the Garden, but for a volleyball game was a pretty big turnout. So that sort of got me going in the world of sports and volleyball. Did
you play volleyball, or you just enjoyed watching?
No, I'm just watching, but I was a promoter and thinking about how, it was so representative of America. I mean, here these guys were all 6'5" blonde guys from the beach. Went to USC, UCLA, Pepperdine, basically that was the entire team. And it was so representative of America. And these guys were, they were great guys. I hung out with them, and I actually was at the '84 Olympics with them. And the funny thing, I was just thinking about just the other day that, while the Olympics were on and while we were playing it, these guys were, they were sort of wild guys, right? So, I mean, they would call me up, and we'd go out at night into bars and chasing women at 10, 11 o'clock at night. Yeah, they had a game the next day, and we were just running around. It's just how they were. That was the beach sensibility, where they didn't take anything seriously, and that's just how they were. And they won. They still won. You still won a gold medal,
Oh, they did.
Out and sleeping till 1 o'clock, drinking liquor till 1 o'clock. Just how it is. They were so great. They were so much better than everyone else, and they knew it.
That's a great experience. How long did you do it for?
I did it for a couple of years, and then I had a chance after the '84 Olympics that the women's team won a silver medal, and then they were breaking up, and the USA team had said, why don't you take control of the women's program? So I created a tour called Volleyball Across America, and we brought in the Japanese team, and Japanese were a great team, and then we traveled across the United States and played on a national tour. We played at the Nassau Coliseum in New York. We played in Pittsburgh and Chicago and Washington, D.C., and sort of, kind of Providence. So yeah, it was good. It was a good little tour. And then I woke up Mark McCormick at ING. And then when my contract expired, he bid on it. I wasn't going to outbid a huge corporation like that. So he won the rights the following year to run the team. So,
well, as a serial entrepreneur that you are, you pioneered next advances in software technology in the '90s through publications, expositions, conferences. You created SIG's publication, one of the largest privately owned publishing conference companies in software technology in the world. Yeah. So now we got Dance Fever, we got sports. Now you're going into software technology. Take us through how you got involved in technology, and you actually took this company and you sold it to a private equity. So take us through that whole situation.
No, that was a hell of a ride, as they say in Silicon Valley. I started out, I was working for a company called John Wiley & Sons, which is a publisher of academic journals and books and scholarly publications. And I was on the new product development team, and I was, one of the things I was researching was all the new technologies, medical and every technology. So basically, computer science was This was 1988, 89. It was exploding, and Wiley didn't want to invest in it. I just met some people, and they said, "Gee, let's start this very sort of trendy new publication called Journal of Object-Oriented Programming," which was a new concept of programming that a couple of guys were pioneering. And so I just left the company. I went to my basement. I started $1,500. I started this little business and put out a little magazine, and you know, it's funny because I ran a little ad in another computer magazine, and for subscriptions, and all of a sudden the mailman came carrying a big bag and put it down, was all filled with checks for subscriptions. And said, well, maybe I'm onto something here. And so it got me going, and that was the beginning of a 10-year run, which led me to start a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and eight publications, open up offices in the UK, in Germany, and in France, in Oslo, and Australia, Sydney, Australia, and had a big operation. We did conferences and training, and we also had a book division. Our partner was Simon Schuster Prentice Hall. So we had a big business going, one of the fastest growing businesses in the United States in the 90s. And yeah, it was a hell of a run.
How'd you know how to run this? How'd you know how to expand it? What was?
Well, I just saw, I kept saying to myself that the market was really needing software technology, and it was a tremendous market. There were actually 1 million programmers in the United States, and so there's tremendous, around the world. So there was a tremendous opportunity, not just in the United States, but also in Europe, and so we just decided that I had to just, I had a limited amount of time to explode this concept, and I just traveled around the world and found opportunities and partners and offices, and just opened it up, and it was a wild time. And when I started out the magazine, I try to get the top guys in Silicon Valley, and the guys that I invited to, it's funny, they were famous in their world, but not known outside the world, right? So basically, I got all the guys that invented all the computer programming, all the programs, all the languages, and I put them together on the team, and they were my advisors and my writers, and they were really probably world class. And two of the guys that were on that team were Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and they were like no one back then. They were just getting going. So it's funny how things are.
Did you ever meet them?
Oh yeah. I met them. I worked with them. Yeah. They wrote for me, and yeah. That's a whole nother story.
Well,
being with those guys is a trip.
We're just here having coffee together. How was Steve Jobs? Was he like what the image was that we see in the media?
Well, Stephen was a tough guy. He was really tough. My joke was, and it wasn't really sort of joke, that if he called you at home at 3 o'clock in the morning and you didn't answer the phone by the third ring, you were fired. I say that as a joke, but that's sort of true. That's the level of loyalty that he demanded. The same thing with Bill Gates and Microsoft. When you went to work for him, Microsoft, you didn't leave the building. Leave the building to go where? Where are you going to go? To do what? We're changing the world. You want to be on board or not? So he had a team of people that were so driven that basically no one ever left the building. I'm serious. I'm talking about the brightest guys from Stanford, the MBAs, the PhD. This is the team that he surrounded himself with. And these were guys that really played hard. And they were just, when I meet people around the country, they tell me, oh, they work hard, I sort of laugh because, I saw that these guys were very, very driven. I saw what it was. These guys would easily work 3 or 4 days without stopping. Maybe they go to the bathroom. That's it. So you really sort of learn that that's what drives these guys. So when they became the richest guys in the world, you see how that is. Yeah. Anyhow, that's the story on that.
Interesting. Very interesting. And then you wound up selling the company to a private equity firm, right?
Yeah. I mean, SoftBank was going to buy it originally, and they were going to buy it last minute. They decided by Yahoo Japan instead. So I sort of like, boy, that was upsetting. But then I had to rebuild it back up again, and I ran it for another 2-3 years and sold it and retired in like 2000.
Well, you didn't really retire. Because,
I forgot.
next stop is Hollywood. You owned Showbiz Expo in Los Angeles. So can you talk? Hello, dog. Hello, puppy.
Yeah, Picasso Matisse. I guess they wanted to be interviewed. I don't know.
Picasso Matisse.
Especially Picasso. He's got a big ego, you know. But, so anyhow,
so what was Showbiz? What was Showbiz?
That was really a wild. I mean, I've had some wild runs. That was a really wild run. I sat down with some smart guys after I sold the business, and we said, you know, is there another parade that we could jump in front of? And I met with some guy that was teaching digital video, digital media, special effects, and animation. We saw that could be an opportunity. So we created a little company, and we put on some shows. We actually put a show in Madison Square Garden, the New York Digital Video Show. And we did about 40, 50 exhibitors and maybe 2,000-3,000 people. We had an educational program and an expo. And then we took that to LA, and that did really well there. And I was running this little sort of expo company, pioneering digital video, digital media. And it actually started with, at first, it just grew, and then it grew, and then Apple wanted to get involved, and everybody wanted to get involved. And one day I got a call from the VCs that owned Variety magazine, and Variety magazine was it's the magazine for show business in LA, and they owned a show called Showbiz Expo, which was the venerable show for filmmakers for filmmaking, which they ran for like 20 years, and they decided they want to get out of that business. So they asked me if I wanted to buy it, and I said, well, no, I don't really want to buy it. They said, well, come on here, we'll talk about it. So I went out, and they said, you come out, you're going to walk into the room, and when you leave the room, you're going to own the show. I said, no, I don't really want to buy it. I don't have any money. They sold me the show for $1. So basically I own the show. So now I own the largest filmmaker show in the world. And that was a show, Showbiz Expo. We did it in Hollywood. We were at the LA Convention Center, and it got 18,000 filmmakers came to that, and about 250 sponsors. So, and 18,000 filmmakers is like 400,000 people. I mean, like, yeah, egos and big names and all this. And you can only speak on the program if you were, I had about 30 speakers, but you can only speak if you were nominated or won an Emmy or an Oscar. So just to give you an idea of a level of talent that we had speaking in there. I mean, people got standing ovations when they went on stage. I've never seen anything like it.
You got to hobnob with the Hollywood elite.
Yeah, it was, yes.
Who stands out?
My calls there for a couple months.
Who stands out to you from the Hollywood that was really a great person, or someone that was not a great person, that was really mean, and you didn't realize that person was a bad person?
Well, one of the things that I really learned, if there was is that even though digital video was exploding, where people can make and shoot and edit films without a lot of equipment and money. So it was an opportunity for young filmmakers that had a vision could make a film for under $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, which was unheard of before that, because it would take normally millions and millions of dollars to make the films. And one of the things that I discovered in talking to a lot of these guys, both the filmmakers and the stars and the people that made it, is that in Hollywood, see, people don't know if they're ever going to work again. So even though they make a movie, when that movie's over, it's over. They're finished and they go home. And they never know if they're going to get another call to get another job again. So a lot of people, even the most accomplished people, are willing to say yes to a new project. So these young filmmakers were able to get the top cinematographers and editors and production people in the country, in the world, to work with them, and even the stars to work, because everybody wanted the next job, and they never would turn down a job. So basically, it was amazing that these guys were able to make movies with big names for $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. So that was a turning point. So it was about 2003, 2004, 2005 that was happening, and it was an amazing phenomenon to see. You know,
you enjoyed that time in Hollywood?
Yeah, and some of the films did really well. You know, and some guys made a lot of money with that. So yeah, and I did the conference, and then I sold that business. I retired again, and then came out to the Hamptons and looking for things to do, and I got into something called art. Started collecting art, and I said, gee, you know, there really should be an art fair. And I was going down to Miami, there were shows down there. And I said, yeah, you know, there seems to be a lot of art collectors in the Hamptons. Why don't we do a show here? So I created an Art Hamptons, like, you know, 15, 16 years ago, I think. And that was another hell of a run.
So let's talk about your favorite topic, which is art. All right, so you created Art Hamptons, but you've had many other fairs around the country: San Francisco, Palm Springs, Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley, Aspen, Houston, and in each city we were like one of the major art events of the year, and you know, was on the front page of the paper kind of thing, and had a lot of people, like, you know, 17,000 people in Houston, and it's a big 12,000 in San Francisco. We had some really, really big turnouts in some of these cities, so it was a major event, and considered, you know, a place to see and be seen, as they say, as Regine used to say. You know, so that was a run. I wound up selling that business to a UK company, and I had a chance to retire again.
But you're back.
I became an art collector, so I started collecting art.
Well, before we get to your collection, you now are back with Art Hamptons, correct?
Yeah, well, I actually created a show called the Hamptons Fine Art Fair, which we did last year, which I want to thank Align Wealth for being a sponsor to, and Peter Klein, actually a partner, actually came and spoke about being a philanthropist, which he was great and provided a lot of important information that people didn't know that they learned from him. So he did thank you for your participation in that, and I think there is a correlation between art collectors and money management. So I think you're onto something there. So the Hamptons Fine Art Fair is something I'm bringing back. We did it at the Southampton Arts Center last summer, and we're going to do it again this summer, July 7 to 10 in Southampton again. So yeah, we're excited, and I'm back in the game and sort of doing that. And it's just a one show now that I do, but you know, it's fun to stay in the game.
Yeah, you did fabulous, I will say, for the audience. If you have an opportunity to go there, it was very, very well run, and obviously the art was wonderful. New artists and different artists from around the country came there to
the gallery. The galleries from around the United States, around the world, and paintings started 10,000 go up. We had about $100 million of art in the building, and that's sort of what there's sort of, it's serious art collecting, or people that want to buy fine art, you know, serious fine art, or even decorative, but really high-end decorative art that is meaningful, and you know, all the way up to the top. You know, there are paintings that sold for $1 million kind of thing. So yeah, it's something for everybody. Treasures for every budget, as I like to say.
That's nice. Well, let's talk about your art collection. You've Jackson Pollock, Matisse, Andy Warhol, just to name a few. What's your favorite time period for art collection, and why?
Thanks for asking. My is really the 1950s, 1960s, because I read a book called Helen Harrison wrote a book called Hamptons Bohemia, about the art scene in the Hamptons in the 20th century. And a lot of the book focused on the 50s and 60s and 70s of the abstract expressionism movement, which started in New York but migrated out to the Hamptons. So I was fascinated by that one of the most important movements in art in the world actually was right in the Hamptons, East Hampton. So I started to really read and study all the books about these guys, and became really big fans of their work, and had an opportunity to buy one, buy two, buy three, and I started buying and collecting these artists from the 50s, 60s era. And then I sort of got really addicted to it, and I started buying more and more, and so now I have a lot. I have about 250 works now, but I have 6 Jackson Pollocks, which is I think the most of any collector in the world, and a whole bunch of other things.
Congratulations. So what
into it,
what I see art behind you. Can you talk a little bit about any of the art that's behind you?
Well, the little painting behind me is Elaine de Kooning Cave, 1959 cave, which has become all the rage. Elaine de Kooning was married to Willem de Kooning, 50s, 60s, 70s, and local painter again. She was not really a woman artist of that era, where it was sort of undervalued and never really taken seriously. It was sort of a macho men's kind of world back then, and it's only even the past 18 years where they've started to really begin to get more and more evaluation, and more reclaimed as recognized for their work, and their prices have increased. So Elaine de Kooning is somebody who it's funny, who I invested a lot in Elaine de Kooning for not $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 here, $6,000 there for pieces, and all of a sudden these pieces exploded in the past 5-6 months, and it just really broke, just off the charts that you wouldn't believe. So I mean, one piece I bought for like $2,000, and just the chance to just go up and went through the roof, set a world record for the artists at Sotheby's. So there's tremendous opportunities and things. You just got to catch it right, and not everything goes up like that, but it's so it was tremendous opportunities. So this piece behind me is a very valuable piece, actually.
Oh, congratulations! That's great. Obviously, you have a great eye for artists and art. So that's.
I think thank you for saying that. I think that it's just sort of the tide has come in for these women artists of that era. So I think all of them, whether it's Lee Krasner or Mitchell or Hedda Stern or Pearl Fine or Frankenthaler, all of these women have just escalated in price, and all those women of that era have sort of now double, triple, 10 times or 100 times in value. So I mean, it's just really gone up. So it's really sort of, I think, when the tide comes in, all the boats rise. So I sort of got lucky with the tide coming in there.
Congratulations! That's great. Well, Rick, baseball, disco dancing, dance fever, volleyball, software technology, Hollywood, trailblazing in art fairs, art collection. You've done it all. What are 1 or 2 lessons that you've learned that you can share with us?
I think you have to really be passionate and driven. I saw that. I learned that in Silicon Valley when the guys really were successful. A lot of the businesses there really exploded to huge corporations, and there was their passion and their vision. They worked relentlessly, and they would not give up. And I realized that nothing comes easy. As some of the guys used to tell me in Silicon Valley, when they became famous, it took them 25 years to become an overnight success. And I think it's true. That I think you just have to. There's no substitute for really hard work, and you got to really put in the time and the years and really be very dedicated. I think that's important. The other thing is, I believe in niches. I think you have to find a niche. And one of my favorite expressions is niche or be niched. So you should try to find something. Like into the sports world, get into volleyball. I said, volleyball? My friends didn't even know what volleyball was. They said, well, with a net, and you I said, no, it's such a big, the NCAA plays it, serious stuff. So you have to find a niche and really drive that niche as far as you can. And that ends a lot of starting up in starting businesses, I think it's important to really find a little niche. It's not covered, to sort of own that world, own that territory. And then once you own that, then you can expand out, because as you go through the life, you see how that expands out into other sectors. And then you can sort of take advantage of that, do that. And that's sort of my philosophy on starting businesses. I think it's really hard to start a big business. You can start small, but look where it's going to go, but own that niche. And I think that's a philosophy that I've had in everything I've done. You know, I'm just trying to do small little things, but then make them grow from there.
Hard work, passion for it, and niche, and have a niche. Those are three
I think
great lessons. Three great lessons. That's terrific. Thank you. Any books that you would suggest to the listeners? Is there any one book that you gift to other people? Any one book that you mentioned Hampton Bohemia, but any other book that you can think
Mary
of?
Gabriel wrote a book about 2 years ago called 9th Street Women, which is a story about the women, the ABEX scene of the 1950s and mid 50s to 58, and it became a popular book. And she actually focused on the life of these 5, 6, 7, 8 women artists. One was Elaine de Kooning, and how they grow and what they did, and that became, I think, the show. The movie is planning to be adopted for a TV series by HBO. Was trying to make. They were filming it at one time. I don't know what the status is now with COVID, but I mean, they were filming to make it into a TV series that's going to be on HBO. So I think that's an interesting story, and I'm going to see where that goes. And that could explode these women artists even at a high level, because now they'll be on the screen. You'll see them. So so I think that's something to look at.
Great.
Be aware of.
Thank you for that. I always like to end with the question, what's one question that you wish I should have asked? Or is it something that you want to leave us with?
Well, I think one of the things I always ask myself is what's next? What's next? What is the next thing that can be invented and discovered and everything? And a lot of times it's our own lack of imagination that really can see what it is. I mean, the answer is there. It's right in front of us. And we really should just see what's next and what the potential is. And right now in art world, they're chasing after NFTs, which seems to have a market and it seems to be growing. But I'm always trying to think about, one of the things I thought about when the art world, because of COVID, stopped and galleries closed. One of the things I did was I created the Hamptons Fine Art Fair virtually. And I worked with a software company that created 3D virtual reality. So we actually sold galleries into the fair that actually put all their pictures up in a gallery virtually on a screen. And then we sold that as a show. And we had, 43,000 visitors came to visit this website, and sold artwork from virtually online. You get to walk around the pieces and stuff. So, I'm always trying to think of things like that, but what's new and what can be. I think all your listeners should actually think about what's new, what's next, what can be done. How do you connect the 2 points? This point here, point there. How do you connect the two? And is there a business opportunity to connect these 2 points? And I think that's something I'm always trying to really think about. And and catch trends. You didn't catch a trend, because if you catch a trend, the trend will carry you. You don't just have to do it all yourself. The wave will pick up and throw you. Software technology, programming, in early 1990s just exploded. And I was thrown, all over the world. And digital media exploded. Digital videos, animation exploded. So it just had to be. Volleyball became popular a little bit then. So and art's now exploding. So I mean, it's one of the things that's amazing about art is there's a tremendous a lot of money is coming into the art world. I think the auction houses in September all did record-breaking numbers of billions and billions of dollars in sales. I think Christie, Sotheby's, and Phillips all broke their records for most sales ever. And so why is that? Why is that? So it's because I think several things. One is that wealthy people are now beginning to see that art could be a possible investment opportunity, and you could live with it and put it on the wall and admire it, versus other things that you could do with your money. And so they're more, but it's also younger people are collecting, people in their 20s and 30s. And the reason for that is all these auction houses and some galleries, but mostly auction houses, have figured out how to use software technology such that you can easily bid and buy a painting and pay for it without leaving a room. With 2 clicks, you can own a major Picasso without talking to anybody. You can own and pay for it on your Amex. And that's never happened before. It was so complex to make a purchase like this years ago. I mean, you had to show that you were worthy, and you could, you're going to take care of the painting. You had to show that you were important. And now that doesn't exist. All those barriers are gone. And I think that by lowering the barriers, millions, not millions, but certainly thousands and thousands of young collectors have come in and had expanded the market of potential buyers now that are buying, because the sophistication of the websites is really impressive, and how they show the work and how you can see it online, and they show it, size with someone standing next to it, and you can look at it very closely and blow it up, and you can see it just like you're there. And then you just gotta click, and you can buy it, and then you can click to pay for it. It never used to be. You just have to go there, pay for it in person. So it was a hassle, And now they've made it so easy to acquire big pieces of art. So I think that is an enormous trend that we're seeing right now, as of like this year and next year. And I think it's just going to continue. That more and more people have access now to quality art without leaving their rooms.
And you mentioned NFT. I just have to ask about that. Do you think that is going to continue a growing trend, or do you think that it's kind of like, really, I'm paying this much money for something that I can't hang anywhere, that the only way I can look at it is on a computer? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a sort of, again, is it a tulip market? I don't know. Yes, there's auctions for it now. There's galleries specializing in it. I mean, there's an art fair now for it. So there is that tide's coming in very, very quickly. A lot of money is going behind it. Things are selling for hundreds of thousands into the millions. And do I think, I have not invested in that. For me, I want to hang it on the wall. I'm sorry, I don't want to look at a computer screen. And
you're not going to hang your computer screen on the wall. Just take your computer screen.
No, that's you can do that. I mean, you can do that. That's possible. But it's a niche, and it's a rapidly growing niche now, because it's new and fresh, and everybody's in the art world is looking for new and fresh, and that's an opportunity. So I think that is an investment opportunity, and people that are watching could explore that and invest in that, But for me, I always think that, the big names is something to always fall back on, and I like that, and that's what I do. But you're right, that it is a fast growing niche. But I think that, I'm seeing more and more that the art world will continue to grow in 2022 and 23. So it's an opportunity for people to get involved and buy pieces of art and put it on the wall and enjoy and live with the beauty of things. You can have your own museum, if you wanted to.
That's very true, which you have done, and it's a beautiful museum that you have at home. Well, with that, Rick, I really want to thank you for joining us with Coffee with Krav. It was really far-reaching. We went to all different subjects. Really appreciate it. I couldn't think of a better person to kick off 2022 with. So I really appreciate your time and all the things that you've done and the lessons that you taught us here. And then I also want to remind everyone that for this year with Coffee with Krav, we're going to be doing it every other month on Tuesday at 10 o'clock. So the next Coffee with Krav is going to be March 1st, Tuesday, 10 o'clock. Be there. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you all,
Remember
and
that.
we'll see you in a couple of months. Thank you so much.
All right, Mark. Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you. Okay, take care, guys.